Peace and grand rising for the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Today is August the 15th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2021 on the ancient Greco-Roman calendar. I am All Rise and Stand. This is a sovereign, ancient, living, Article 3, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American court action. I am Sovereign Living Justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in Capitis Diminution Nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jury Bay, in Capitis Diminution Nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are the original, indigenous, ancient, universal, living, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American people who are the law, and we are the government, Islam. So let's go ahead and prepare for just one moment. Let me go ahead and prepare. There we go. Okay. All right. So hopefully you all can see the document that's on the screen. It'll just be the letterhead. So the first thing I wanted to discuss today is this. Have you all heard about the time when our Prophet Noble Drew Ali went to Havana, Cuba in 1928 and received a document that some refer to as the American Mandate for the land? Hopefully you all have heard about that trip that he made, where he was given a document that said that, you know, we're the heirs to everything, you know, all the land. And the document was actually a document assisting us in governing the land. So we're going to delve into that document and show you where to find it and what it says. It's a lot more entailed than we originally thought, but it's worth taking a look at. So as we look at the document, I'd like to bring forth the fact that the ones who did the document were not the Moors, so to speak, but they had signatory ability that was given to them by us. So when our prophet went down there, he didn't sign the document. They just made sure he got a copy of it. And I think we all kind of heard that before, where he went down there and he received it. He was given a copy of this mandate. He was given a copy of all of the things that took place down there while all of those plenipotentiaries and consuls were down there. And at that time, which is in the early 1900s, those doing business as the United States of America were acting in a consular manner down there, supposedly representing us. And the documents clearly state that they were representing the United States, et cetera, et cetera. And as we know today, no one represents the Moors. But during that time period, that is what is proposed in these documents. So I'm going to put the link to the documents. Actually, I'll put it in the chat at the end of the meeting. Please remind me to put it in there when we open the floor. And that way we can look at the document and you all can have it for study purposes, because it's actually a pretty in-depth document that contains several different conventions over several days. Okay, So we'll go ahead and look at the document really quickly. Let me make sure that you can see it. Okay. Okay. I just want to be sure you can see. Okay. So now the document is found in the office of the historian, and this is all in, the office name is in blue, Department of State, United States of America, and this one looks different from the one that was doing business as the United States Department of State. This is a different site from that one. And this is Papers Relating to the Foreign Relations of the United States, 1928, Volume 1. The 6th International Conference of American States held at Havana, January 16th to February 20th, 1928. And be it known on the public record, I did a little digging because I was wondering how come it was so difficult for us to find just the in-depthness of this document, or for me, because some of you may have had the document already. But they changed the spelling of Havana, Cuba, to Habana. And Havana is spelled with a B, H-A-B-A-N-A, and Havana that we thought we knew of today is spelled H-A-V as in Victor, A-N-A. And one is a derivative of the other. One is Spanish and one is Latin, English, Moorish, Latin, Ancient English, Havana. And that is one of the reasons, you know, like when we're digging through documents and we're looking for things, it's going to be beneficial to us to tweak the spelling of what we've been given, because we've been given words and those words are not always spelled the way that we were taught they were spelled. And that's why our national expression of ancient English is so important. Okay. So I wanted to just show you really quickly just a few things about this document. It says here on the screen, it says, of the 11 conventions adopted at Havana on February 20th, 1928, the United States ratified 6, the texts of which are printed herewith. The other conventions were those with respect to, number 1, private international law, number 2, revision of the Convention of Buenos Aires regarding literary and artistic copyright, number 3, treaties, and that's treaties in all lowercase letters, number 4, diplomatic officers, and number 5, asylum. So let's take a look at the 6 that were ratified, and then at another time we will take a look at the 5 that were not ratified by the United States and see what they say, because it is what they say, but it's also what they don't say or what they don't ratify. Okay, so I'm going to click here on convention so that we can see which ones the United States ratified. So here. The first convention that they ratified was the Convention Regarding Commercial Aviation, signed at Havana on February 20th, 1928. That convention has everything to do with our airspace and our ability to fly and do the things that we need to do with regard to air travel. Okay. And we'll just take a quick look at that one very quickly. It's not a long document. It says the governments of the American Republic, which is what we are now in red in all lowercase letters, desirous of establishing the rules they should observe among themselves for aerial traffic, have decided to lay them down in a convention and to that effect have appointed as their plenipotentiaries. And then they listed the names, and we know we don't have names, so that is not, you will not see any Moorish names per se, but you will, but there's something important that I want to show you because we sent someone down there. Our prophet went there of his own sovereign status because he's sovereign. Then there were subjects who went down there as well that we want to point out. And the subjects they signed these documents. However, whenever we put our autographs on anything like this, it will be because we all on this call and those who are a part of this Congress at their choosing, the Moors who are a part of this Congress at their choosing, we come together like we're doing right now and we say, okay, we're going to look at this document. Let us write it in red in all lowercase letters. Let us bring it under our sovereign jurisdiction, and then we will vote on whether we want to use this document as the law, write it into our laws. And when we write these types of documents into our laws, we then put that with the Constitution for the United States and the treaty in red and all lowercase letters, and we tribute that and give it out and notify. Okay? So right now we're going to just look at these documents, and then at a time of your choosing, and we'll put the motion on the floor, but at the time of your choosing, when we want to get these documents put into law so that we can begin moving in the direction of aerial traffic properly, the way that we're supposed to do it, because this mask mandate and all of these other things that are impeding travel of the citizens, we need to be outside of that. So I want to point out just a couple of things here. The high contracting parties, which is, when they say high contracting party, they mean us, but they're bringing the document because of the way it's written in capitis diminutio minima, then they are the ones doing these and writing them out as if they were us, because they knew that when we woke up, we would put these documents in its proper status. So it says the high contracting parties recognize that every state, and that state in capitis diminutio nolo, no capital letters, has complete and exclusive sovereignty over the airspace above its territory and territorial waters. Period. That means us. We have complete and exclusive. Exclusive means we determine who goes and who comes with regard to our airspace. But we have to write that out in red in all lowercase letters, and then that is where we will notify TSA and those doing business as air traffic controller, FAA, etc., because we are all of those in red in all lowercase letters, and then we need to notify the subjects. And that's who was putting these forth, is the subjects. They were putting these documents forth so that we could see them and then modify them and edit them according to our will, and then put them on the public record as a nation. So Article 3, Article 2 says the present convention applies exclusively to private aircraft. Article 3, the following shall be deemed to be state aircraft: military and naval aircraft, aircraft exclusively employed in state service, that's anything we're flying on, such as post, customs, and police. Aircraft exclusively employed in state service, whenever we're flying anywhere, that aircraft automatically becomes a state service aircraft, and these apply to it. And here is the key to that. All state aircraft other than military, naval, customs, and police aircraft shall be treated as private aircraft. As such, shall be subject to all of the provisions of the present convention. Anything we're flying on shall be considered as such when we are on government duty. Okay. So when it comes to, and I'm going to skip over some of these because you can read them in your own private time. But I just want to point out a few things. Each contracting state has the right to prohibit, for reasons which it deems convenient in the public interest, the flight over fixed zones of its territory by the aircraft of the other contracting states and privately owned national aircraft employed in the service of international commercial aviation. And I'll stop right there. Again, we have the authority to allow or prohibit for reasons which we deem convenient in the public interest. If we say that's not convenient for that to fly over our airspace because we don't think that's safe, then it won't. They can't. And I'll let you read further in on that. Article 6 says every aircraft over a prohibited area shall be obliged as soon as this fact is realized or upon being so notified by the signals agreed upon to land as soon as possible. And I'll stop right there with that. And again, these are things that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was down there hearing these things being put forth. Okay. Article 7 is very important, as are they all. Aircraft shall have the nationality of the state in which they are registered and cannot be validly registered in more than one state. Just think about that. The aircraft has to be the same nationality as we are. So it needs to be registered with us. And that has essentially already taken place simply because we are nationalizing all of our resources. We're leaning all of the airlines and putting them in subject status and then giving them the resources by way of dollarium, signed, wet ink signature, bright red thumbprint, giving them dollarium. And all more should be doing this. If you're wanting to travel somewhere, go ahead and lien the aircraft, the carriers and all of that, lien them by court action, and then send them some dollarium to their headquarters so that they will know that they're in subject status. The registration entry and the certificate of registration shall contain a description of the aircraft and state, the number or other mark of identification given by the constructor of the machine, the registry marks and nationality, the name of the aerodrome or airport usually used by the aircraft, and the full name, nationality, and domicile of the owner, as well as the date of registration. Okay, so, and we know we don't have names, we have appellations, but because the subjects were writing this so that we could see it when we woke up, they had to put what they could actually sign, something they could actually sign, and it had to say name instead of appellation, etc. So just take the time to look through these documents to see what all they were saying about travel and about aircraft and about everything that has to do with our safety as we travel as the government, and how that should be put forth. And also know that the subjects have already put all of this into action. They've already done all this, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to speak as the government by sovereign affidavit and then give them the resources. And remember, with regards to the dollarium, our sovereign status and our autographs have been what they've been using to do things like this. They use our consent and our agreement By way of our presence and our sovereign status and our acceptance of these documents is how they were able to do it. They got all of this stuff done, and they're saying, okay, here more, these things, we, you know, them, the subjects, they're presenting these things to us now and saying, claim them properly so that you can use them. Okay. And then I want to show you, down here, it says some very important things. I want to show you down here the signatory so that you will know, because I was actually, in looking through these documents, I was actually expecting to see Prophet Noble Drew Ali's autograph on something because they gave him the document. But the Moors, we were not doing these documents. We had the subjects to do it so that they don't miss anything. And then they were to give it to us and let us look over the documents, and then we write them into law. So then I started looking through the documents, and I looked down at the signatories. In witness whereof, and it's right here on the screen, the above named plenipotentiaries have signed this, and here, when you go to this site, if you see something like this, just click on it. It will take you to the document, the printed document. Convention and the seal of the 6th International Conference of American States has been hereto affixed, and these are the signatories. Now, if you look at these names, these are all Moorish appellations when they're in red and all lowercase letters. Okay, but they put them in all capital letters because that was not, these were subjects doing this. However, I wanted to show you in particular the one for the United States. These are the signatories for the United States of America right here. Charles Evans Hughes, Noble Brendan Judah, Henry P. Fletcher, Oscar W. Underwood, Morgan J. O'Brien, James Brown Scott, Ray Lyman Wilbur, Leo S. Rouse. And as you can see here, there is a noble who signed the document. However, this noble who signed the documents was acting as if he was one of us. He was in subject to the Moors, subject status. And that's why the word noble is in all capital letters. Okay. So now I want to go back and show you some of the other documents, some of the other conventions. That was just one of them. That's the Aviation Convention. This one you'll find particularly interesting because it talks about the contention regarding the status of aliens signed at Havana, February 20, 1928. If you'll notice, the first word of all the others is convention. See that says convention? These say convention. This one that we're about to look at is the only one that uses the word contention. And at first I thought, well, maybe that's a typo, but they put that everywhere throughout the document in terms of where this document is listed. It is listed as the contention regarding the status of aliens signed at Havana, February 20th, 1928. Treaty series is 815. Pay close attention to the treaty series as well. So here it is again. Treaty series number 815. Contention regarding the status of aliens signed at Havana, February 20, 1928. These are some of the documents that we were not supposed to see until a certain time. Okay? Now, it says here the governments of the republics represented, again, that's key. That means we were not doing this. They were doing it and pretending to represent us. However, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali was there, so you can't represent us while we're there. But they were doing subject duty. Okay? represented at the 6th International Conference of American States. And then it says, this is important, who, after depositing their full powers, that means that they gave their full powers, they were deposited to someone else. That's important. So with this one, let's look first at Article 1. Article 1 says, states have the right to establish by means of laws the conditions under which foreigners may enter and reside in their territory. We get to determine that, but we had to stand first. We couldn't do it as one or two more here and there interspersed. We had to come together like we are now, and we're growing and growing and growing. We had to come together, and then these things could be put on the public record. We read them, we put them in red and all lowercase letters, and then all of us vote and agree that, yes, states have the right to establish by means of laws the conditions under which foreigners may enter and reside in their territory. And when we say it, we're saying it first for ourselves, because, see, the laws that we make, they apply to us first. We're not under them. We're aligned with them first, and then everyone else has the same laws that they must follow. So we write the laws, and this specifically says the word under which foreigners. So that tells you who has jurisdiction. We do have to meet and come together and put these laws on the public record. Under which foreigners may enter and reside in their territory. Article 2. Foreigners are subject, as are nationals, to local jurisdiction and laws, due consideration being given to the limitations expressed in conventions and treaties. So it says here foreigners are subject, we know that. And it says nationals are subject also, however, there is a consideration being given to the conventions and treaties. Foreigners are not, the subjects are not treaty subjects. They are subjects. In other words, the Constitution is for them. Treaties are for the national. That's the sovereign supreme law for the land. Treaties are for nationals and nationals from other nations and other places. Okay. Let's take a look. I'll skip over these, and you can again look at these as well when you have some time. Article 5 outlines civil rights for foreigners. States should extend to foreigners domiciled or in transit through their territory all individual guarantees extended to their own nationals and the enjoyment of essential civil rights without detriment as regards foreigners to legal provisions governing the scope of and usages for the exercise of said rights and guarantees. So it's parsing and specifying. We should extend to foreigners domiciled or in transit all individual guarantees extended to their own nationals, to our own nationals. So when you say all individual guarantees, that means that foreigners are not a nation coming up in here. Okay? They're individuals. Individual foreigners. They're not coming in here as a big giant corporation coming to take over anything. Okay? They're individuals, and that's why we name them. And then we say, okay, we will extend to you some civil rights. Let's move on to Article 6. For reasons of public order or safety, states may expel foreigners domiciled, resident, or merely in transit through their territory. States are required to receive their nationals expelled from foreign soil who seek to enter their territory. In other words, we don't have a choice. All of our nationals are always welcome here on our land. And this is specific to those, especially the Moors that are in the POW camps. The POW camps that's foreign until we put them in subject status. And when we put them in subject status, that's where, okay, everyone is back on the land. Now the law of the land applies, and the law for the land applies. We are the law for the land, okay? But we may expel anyone that is either domiciled, resident, because resident is actually a subject word, or merely in transit through our territory. And our territory is actually the whole earth. But for these purposes, we're going to say the Western Hemisphere. And again, the United States has always known this. All of the other nations of the earth have always known this. We just were not standing as we are right now. Now, again, we've always governed. Our government has no interruptions in it. But it's our turn to now place these on the public record as competent heirs of this land and state that this is the law for our land. And these articles and this convention that our prophet was present for, because see, they had to have one of us down there or they couldn't have been able to do this. They've always known, now we know, and now it's time for us to stand and put these on the public record. Another one that I want to take a look at, and it says it right here, foreigners must not mix in political activities which are the exclusive province of the citizens of the country in which they happen to be. Now, when it says citizens of the country in which they happen to be, that means they're not nationals. Citizens nor foreigners, either one. And if we, if there are nationals from someplace else, they can't come here and get into the citizens' business either. The citizens happen to be here on our land. Okay. They have their activities and things that they're doing, and foreigners are not to come and mix in their activities. In cases of such interference, they shall be liable to the penalties established by local law. Local law it always starts with the foundation, which is the supreme law for the land. Okay? Now, Article 8, the present convention does not affect obligations previously undertaken by the contracting parties through international agreements. In other words, these do not supersede treaty law. These do not supersede all debts and obligations before the Constitution. Those are still valid debts for them, for the debtors. Number 9 is really, really, really important. It's very important. It says, after being signed, the present convention shall be submitted to the ratification of the signatory states. The government of Cuba is charged with transmitting authentic certified copies to the government, and that's government in all lowercase letters, for the aforementioned purpose of ratification. Let's stop there. Cuba did their job. They gave it to the Prophet Neutrality. They did their job. They gave these documents to our prophet. What happened after that is that our prophet was working very, very diligently to get us to wake up at that time in the 1920s and early 1900s. He was trying to get us to wake up as a people, and for some reason, he did everything he came to do because he laid the foundation. But then he also said that if I told you to have, many would go back to sleep. And in the 2000s, the Moors are going to come into their own. He knew that at this time period and this generation, that we were going to wake up. We were going to look back at what he did, and we were going to change the literature This is literature. It has to be changed by us. Put in red and all lowercase letters and take out things like names and put in the word appellation, etc., etc. That is what we're here to do. So the reason 9 is so important is because the government of Cuba gave the authenticated certified copy to the government, which is Prophet Noble Drew Ali is the government, just like we're all the government. All Moors are the law, and we are the government. For the aforementioned purpose of ratification, that ratification did not happen with regard to us today. It still needs to happen, and we have to do it. So this is a part of governing, okay? So now, I want to also, again, down here at the bottom, look at the signatories. In witness whereof the aforenamed plenipotentiary signed the present convention in Spanish, English, French, and Portuguese in the city of Havana, the 20th day of February, 1928. And when you look back through these, you see nothing but Moorish appellations when they're in red and all lowercase letters. And then it says reservation of the delegation of the United States of America. Reservation, hold it back, because there's been a delegation here, but the heirs have not ratified it themselves. So it says the delegation of the United States of America signs the present convention, making express reservation to Article 3 of the same, which refers to military service of foreigners in case of war. And then here it is, Charles Evans Hughes, Noble Brandon Judah. And I did look up Noble Brandon Judah, and you know what Wikipedia has there. You know they have some, they have a modern European there as Noble Brandon Judah. And by the way, Noble Brandon Judah was given 40 acres at Mecca, Chicago, Illinois territory for his service. So that whole 40 acres and a mule piece belongs to the servants who serve in this manner. We own all of the land, all of it. And then we give the servants 40 acres and a mule. So let's look at one of the other documents on here, or a couple of other ones actually. That was the convention regarding the status of aliens. This is the convention regarding consular agents signed at Havana. We can look at that as well. And it says here, states may appoint in the territory of others with the express or tacit consent of the latter, consuls who shall there represent and defend their commercial and industrial interests and render to their nationals such assistance and protection as they may need. That's Article 1. And believe it or not, that is what the United States Corporation Companies was acting out. They were acting out that they put their representatives in our territory with our express or tacit consent. And we know what tacit consent is. Tacit consent is you didn't know you gave consent, but by your actions you did. And that goes back to what we talked about the last call about acceptance. We accepted it because we didn't rebut it. And that is important with with everything that we're doing is we have to properly rebut everything that's out there. And a proper rebuttal to anything is for us to put look at it, put it in red in all lowercase letters, agree on it as a nation, and sign it, and let's go. Okay, and agree on it in these congressional meetings and make it the law. And the reason these things are coming forth now is because it's time for us to do that. They see now that if we put it out there, we're not going to put it out there any kind of way. We're going to put it out there competently. It's not going to be looking like theirs is looking with black ink and capital letters. It's going to be looking like it comes from the Savior, because it does, which is all more. So when you talk about commercial and industrial interests, that is where the Delarium comes in at. Okay, and we'll show you a prime example of that once we get through these documents here shortly. Commercial and industrial interests are not ours unless our money put them there. And fortunately for us, our ancestors put all of that in the law so that everything is ours when we claim it properly with our own money. That's why these, the custodians have not been releasing domiciles and things like that, because they know that there has to be a commercial exchange on the public record, and it can't be in fiat. It must be. And it can't just be by arbitrary claiming. We must properly, commercially defend our interests. And defending our interests doesn't even require guns. It requires money. Money. We know that because we've seen everyone else do it. Rothschild said, "Give me control of the money and I don't even care who makes the laws." That's what he said. Because he already knew he could sway that any way he wanted to sway it. And that's what they did. So another article here. It says here, Article 3, unless consented to by the state where he is to serve, one of its nationals may not act as consul. That's if we were to go to another place, unless we, like, for example, we actually told the hybrids, the modern Europeans who came here, they all came here to work. But they have actually been acting as consuls while we were asleep with our tacit consent, because we were not doing it in the way that we are now. So when people say that you're not supposed to have a consulate on your own land, that's for foreign lands. There's no land that is foreign to us. All of it is ours. We have consuls and consular court because there is a diversity of nationality and citizenship on all of our land. Okay? That's why we have consuls and consulates. And we are the only ones who actually have the authority to have a consulate on our own land. And it's because everyone else is on our land. So we need to make provisions. It's only proper and lawful to make provisions for those who are visiting the land in case there's any conflict of any kind, or any disagreements, or any contracting that needs to be done, or anything. The granting of an exequatur, which is just an executor, implies such consent. And what did we do? By tacit consent means that there's no one doing it and no one stepping up to do it. So somebody, whoever it is, just decides, I'm going to step up and do it. Well, everybody who didn't step up gave their tacit consent until they start doing it for themselves. That's the way it works with our government and with what we're doing right now. the modern European was doing things because we were tacitly consenting. Now that we said, okay, we're going to be the ones writing the laws on our land, we do that. That's us. Then there's no more tacit consent, and no one can just step up and say, okay, all Moors have to wear a mask. No, we determined that because we're actually governing. Okay, we're actively governing, and that goes for all Moors, all hands on deck with regard to governing. It's easy for me to say, no, I don't wear a mask, but that's because I did the demonstration. But someone next to me, like my heiress, she's going to have to do that demonstration for herself. She can't just say, well, mother did everything. I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to not wear one. And when they said, I'm just going to point to mom and say, because she's an adult. She has to stand on her own sovereign feet too, because it's all hands on deck. Everyone has to do it. So you can look through these and go through them as you see fit. And I will put the links to these in the chat and under this video on YouTube. Article 5 says states may refuse to accept consuls appointed in their territory or subject the exercise of consular functions to certain special obligations. So we have essentially done that by standing up and consuling on our own land. That is our refusal to have someone else do it. Attorneys. We're saying we don't need attorneys who are really, they're doing the duties that consuls do. Or they were doing the duties that consuls should have been doing. So that is our refusal, because we can talk all day long about how you don't represent me, well, who does? No one. We present ourselves, and then we stand and present ourselves. So again, all of the other nations that were here were at Havana, Cuba, at this time. They know all of this about us. They already know. And it says here, the consul can be recognized as such only after having presented his commission and obtained the executor of the state in whose territory he is to serve. You have to be commissioned. Well, on our land, we sanction each other. That's how this is done. It does not require some long drawn out process. By bloodline and birthright, we're the law and we're the government. So please don't let anyone, I don't care how close they are, I don't care if they're even a part of what we're doing right now. They don't let them charge you for consular commissioning and all of that. You got that already by bloodline and birthright, and we're putting it on the public record now. We commission all consuls for the Moorish, the de jure Moorish National Republic Federal Government and the Moorish American Consulate, all Moors by bloodline and birthright, period. So if you just needed that, you got it already, but you didn't really need it. It's just affirmation of what you already have. So there, don't save the fiat. Don't send it, because it's not necessary. It's right here. So there are some other articles here that are important in terms of consular venues, etc. Let's see. And again, you can read these. Here's one, Article 18. I wanted to be sure to point this one out. The official residence of the consuls, that's your domicile, and places used for the consulate's offices and archives are inviolable. And in no case may the local authorities enter them without the permission of the consular agent. Neither shall they examine nor seize under any pretext whatsoever documents or other objects found in the consular office. No consular officer shall be required to present his official files before the court or to make declaration with respect to their contents. There it is in writing. Our Prophet Noble Drew Ali had this in his hand. We know this to be exactly what we always thought it was, okay? And you can read more about that. We'll put it in the chat, okay? And then if you look down here at the bottom, here are all of these servants of the Lord, okay, that put their names here. And you can look through them and you will see here United States of America, the same ones, Noble Brandon Judah, Henry Fletcher. And again, I was looking for our prophet's appellation, but I realized that by the way it's written, his appellation would not be on these. They gave him a copy because they were answering to their government and their authority. He was the authority. He's the government. That's why he had to be here while they're doing all of these things. So now let's go. There's a convention regarding maritime neutrality. You can read that one. This one, convention regarding the duties and rights of states in the event of civil strife. So if the citizens are fighting on our land, what do? How does this go? Who's in charge? Article 1, very important. The contracting states bind themselves to observe the following rules with regard to civil strife in another one of them. To use all means at their disposal to prevent the inhabitants of their territory, nationals or aliens, from participating in gathering elements, crossing the boundary, or sailing from their territory for the purpose of starting or promoting civil strife. So no marching out in the streets and all of that when the citizens are out there. We don't go out there and march with them and do those things out there because that's promoting civil strife. And that's why they put a lot of emphasis on it being a peaceful march or peaceful gathering. And that's important. They need to say that. They need to put that on the public record that it's peaceful. It doesn't always remain that way. And that's why we don't go out there and march around. We make the laws and enforce the laws like our prophet said for us to do. Number 2, very important, to disarm and intern every rebel force crossing their boundaries. The expenses of internment to be borne by the state where public order may have been disturbed. The arms found in the hands of the rebels may be seized and withdrawn by the government of the country granting asylum to be returned once the struggle has ended to the state in civil strife. That is where, listen, how is it that we could ever fulfill this mandate right here that our prophet had in his hands, meaning to disarm and intern every rebel, and the expenses be borne by the Moorish government? How were we ever to do that if we didn't have our own money? Because we know that, and we can see that the United States Corporation Company was not going to disarm and intern every rebel force. A rebel force is corporate police, not the subject, the corporate. But when you do a court action and you put the policy enforcers in their proper place, then they become subject to the Moors, and then they do as they're commanded, which is protect and serve the heirs. But again, this is the mandate that those citizens that were acting in corporate status, that's running around collecting guns, they already know, and they said on their record that, it's going to be really bad when they come for the guns. When they come to take our guns, that means the end is near. Well, they knew that at some point we were going to see this document, and that at some point we were going to put it in red in all lowercase letters, and that at some point we were going to put the military in subject status and tell them, okay, collect up the arms. Why? Because the Second Amendment cannot be quoted unless you are a well-organized militia. And that needs to be put on the public record as a well-organized militia. And you can't be a militia on somebody else's land. You can't be a militia on somebody else's land, and they know that. The hybrids know that. But because we were not doing what we know to do, which is use the standing army that we have, because they came to serve, but we were not giving them the resources to serve us. So they went where the resources went. They followed the quote-unquote fiat. They say follow the money. They followed the fiat. Well, now they can follow the dollarium, the gold-backed sovereign money. Now we can say, okay, peace on the land. And everybody sing kumbaya. Now, I'll say this about number 3. Let's go to number 3. To forbid the traffic in arms and war material, except when intended for the government. That's us. That's government in all lowercase letters. That does not have a capital G. So they're not talking about subjects and corpses. They're not talking about that. They're talking about us. So that tells me that we can move arms and war materials. We can do that. I think about our brothers on the East who are dealing with armed situations there and are in the POW camps because of the armed situation. And as we stated before, they have every right on their land to practice with their arms and to go and do the things that they need to do in terms of proper operation and cleaning of the arms and all of that. They should be practicing that, and they should be going and making sure that they are competent at the use of the arms. But that has to be done by protocol. There has to be proper protocols on the public record, and those protocols are easy to find. All we have to do is look at what some of our other brothers who were in their sleeping status did. There's a group called INFAC, NFAC, and they went around to all of these different places. They had policy enforcers escorting them. They had their arms out, their machineries, their guns, and all of that. Their arms, rather. They had their arms out, and they marched peacefully through the streets, doing, just showing who they are and making their stand and showing their right to bear arms. All we have to do is say, hey, what did you all do in order to make it so that you had peaceful subjects around you to make sure that the subjects do their job and not violate? Okay, just give us the document. Just point us to the protocols and the codes and statutes that you use to do that, and let us put them in red and all lowercase letters on the public record. Then we can do the things such as getting armed and bearing arms according to the Constitution for the United States. So there's nothing wrong with what our brothers were doing. They have a right to do that. But as you can see, it's put in protocol format. That's not something hairy-carry. You put it in format, in protocol, and then you put those protocols, whoever it is, whatever Moors that are wanting to do this, must peacefully put these protocols competently on the public record in red and all lowercase letters, so that they know that it comes from the Savior and not from a citizen. And number 4 says, to prevent that within their jurisdiction there be equipped, armed, or adapted for warlike purposes any vessel intended to operate in favor of the rebellion. This is our jurisdiction. Say no more. I won't say any more about that, because we talked about war energy, and that is why peace energy is so important, because now that we're peaceful, we're being given the keys by which we can properly and competently govern our own land. And again, the prophet was given this information. There just needed to be, what we're doing today is absolutely in alignment with what our prophet wanted. Okay. And then you can look through these. Let's take a look at the last paragraph of number 2. The insurgent vessel, whether a warship or a merchantman, which flies the flag of a foreign country to shield its actions, may also be captured and tried by the state of said flag. If you're pretending to be a citizen and you're a Moor, then you're flying their flag to shield being yourself, because you don't want to be tested or whatever the case may be, or you may be fearful, and we get it. We understand that. But that does not mean that we get away with that. We still have to be ourselves, or you may be captured and tried by the state of that flag, and they're not even a state. That's a banner of Armenian commerce. But look what they've been doing. Look what they've been doing. And that's where they get the term insurgents. Oh, they have some insurgents, and they're warring and all of this. If you're flying their flag on your documents, out of your mouth, or on your vessels to shield action, now it's a difference between you're not trying to shield, you're not hiding anything, your status is on the public record, you just are in transition. That's different from attempting to be deceptive in order to get a quote-unquote benefit. You may be captured and tried, maybe. And then you got to know, and even then you have to know court actions, how to get yourself in and out of those situations. Because even then, jurisdiction can still be invoked at any time. So our ancestors still have made a door, an escape way, a way for us to escape. Okay? And then you can go through these and look and see. And again, here it is, the names of the subjects who were doing these things, so that when we woke up, we could see them. And they have United States of America in capitis diminutio minima, and then they signed in capitis diminutio maxima. And there's Noble Brandon Judah, et cetera, okay? And then it says here in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French, English text only. And then they talk about the ratification of it. Okay? So now, let me go back and then the 6th one is the convention regarding the Pan-American Union, signed at Havana, February 20th. And here you can see the signatories. These are all our brothers and sisters: Paraguay, Uruguay, Panama, Ecuador, Mexico, Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Bolivia, Venezuela, Colombia, Honduras. All of these are brothers and sisters, all. And then it talks about the governing boards of the American states, etc. So now we wanted to take some time to look at that. Now we want to talk about, because see, in order to fulfill these mandates, we have to know who controls our nation's finances. Who controls our nation's finances? That's a question. Well, when we look at what our prophet said back then in 1928, we know, unfortunately, that we were not in control of our finances. Our prophet was working diligently to get us up to speed and up to standards. He was the only one. He couldn't do everything. We actually have to stand up and work and do things and be active more. So the answer to that for back then is found in this document that it's to be read at all meetings, to be read at the temple meetings of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I want to focus on, and we've heard this reading before, and this is our prophet speaking. So it says, "Dear brother, Islam, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as an American citizen." And again, I would love to see these words coming out of his mouth. I would love to see these words coming out. It says, "They are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they themselves may take charge of the situation." And we don't know, again, for sure if each and every one of these words came specifically from our prophet, but we're going to go ahead and go with it because this is what has been put forth. But it says here, and the reason I'm making that disclaimer is because I know that our prophet would not call anyone government official when he knew we were the government. He knew we were. But I don't know because I wasn't there. So I'll have to defer to this document because this document did come from one of the temples, and we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater sort of thing. And so here, part 2 of this says, "I have notified," and this is the question. The question is, who controls the finances of the nation? "I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that contribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement." It says here that our prophet said, "I need finance and I need it bad. Never before have I needed finance as badly as I do at present, that I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility." And that was, saying that our prophet said that. And I'll stop right there because just if in fact our prophet said this, and I'm not saying he didn't, I'm just saying if he did say this, then that would mean that we were not in control of our finances. Or else he would just say, okay, let's get more finances and put some more things in place. Let's fulfill this mandate that I received when I went to Havana, Cuba. And then he would have set about, and all the Moors would have gone, and all hands on deck, everybody working and putting these things into place. So the answer to the question is that that we were not in control of our finances at the time, according to what we know. Okay, so now, just a moment, let me go back to our document here. And this is what I was reading. It's on the screen. It is the there it is. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, what he stated back in the day. That's what I just read with regard to meeting finances and meeting it badly. And so it's important for us and incumbent upon us right now to move forth with using our own money. So let's talk a little bit about that really quickly, so that we have a good grasp on where we're going as a nation and what we're doing. Okay. Okay. So we're talking now about nation. Here on the screen is a definition for the word nation. Nation, birth, a race, people from natus or nashi, to be born. Number one, a stable, historically developed community of people with a territory, economic life, distinctive culture, and language in common. Let's stop there. Are we stable? We're getting there. Very much so. Historically developed, we have the longest history in the universe. Do we have a territory? Yes, we do. Do we have an economic life that came from us? Yes. Yes, we do. And if you have not received your Moorish Sovereign Dalarium, and I did get the text messages, I've gotten many of them saying that you've not received your Dalarium yet. It's on the way. I'm going through the emails as quickly as I can to get the Dalarium to you. If any other Moors have the Dalarium, go ahead and send them out. However, Moors, be careful, because I want to make sure you get the Dalarium and not something else. So that's why we prefer that you get them from us. If you'll just email the government at gmail.com, and government has an E on the end, THE, that's THE, government, GOVERNMENTE at gmail.com, and we can get you the Dalarium. Please be patient and give us the opportunity to get through the email as well. And the text messages. Thank you for those who sent the text messages. If you need Dalarium, 334-294-9828, we can get those to you so that you can begin putting that, including it into all of your documents so that acceptance is gained, okay? So with regard to nation, point in fact, just as a side note, with regard to languages in common, ancient English contains words from all other languages, to include Moorish, Latin, Spanish, French, Common English, etc. Therefore, all of the nations of the earth have a language in common with us, for we are the mother nation, flying the mother flag, and speaking the mother tongue, which is our national expression. So the flags that we have, these two back here behind me that you can see that are on the top of all of our documents, Those are the mother flag. Okay, this is the mother flag. This one is over 10,000 years old. The one with the green, the red with the green 5-pointed star. That's the mother flag. And then we have the land flag. So when you talk about territories, land, law of the land, this flag as well. Okay. So those are the mother flags. We don't need to make another flag. We got two that are ancient. So we'll keep these two. They are the mother flag. So now, really quickly, economy. I wanted to take a look at the word economy because it's in the definition for a nation. Economic. Here it is. It says economic life. Economy. What is economy? There's the word right there. It's a noun. The management of a household or state, the public revenue from oikonomos, a manager, administrator, house, to distribute, manage. Economy, the management of it. Number one, the management of the income, expenditures, etc. of the household, private business, community, or government. Who's managing the governmental economy? We are, and when I say we, everyone who agrees with us and unifies with us with regard to the use of Morse sovereign delarium. Each Moor has the ability to govern their own vast estate that way. Because you can print what you need, that's your budget. And then you can note what you need on your documents or in your spreadsheets, etc. And then you can give it and receive it at will so that you can give an account and keep track of your vast estate and its value and its worth. You're the government. We're all the government. Number two says careful management of wealth and resources, etc. To its avoidance of waste by careful planning and use, thrift or thrifty use. An orderly management or arrangement of parts, organization or system, as the economy of the human body. And number five is really good. A system of producing, distributing, and consuming wealth. A system of producing, because you got to produce it first. And we cannot produce for other nations. We got to produce for us first. That starts with having our own money. And then telling the subjects, giving commands on our land. Who's on our land? Everyone should be working. All hands on deck. And here's the resources that you need to do your work according to our command. National, of a nation or the nation. A national is the nation. Each one of us is the nation. Each one of us. And then together we're the nation. National wealth is affecting the nation as a whole, in that, just like number one says here on the screen. Affecting the nation as a whole. Just one moment. Let me make sure that this document is on the screen. There it is. Okay. So this is what we were looking at, economy. The management of a household or state, the public revenue, from oikonomos, a manager, administrator, etc., to distribute, to manage. Part of trust law is that the trustee must tribute to the beneficiary from the estate. Have you all had any of your vast estate tributed to you? Well, guess what? We're tributing it to ourselves, each one of us. When we come together and unify and use the same money system, that is actually what validates the money system. Our money system is validated already on the public record because so many of us have decided to use it. Careful management of wealth, resources, etc. Okay? And there's number 5, a system of producing, distributing, and consuming wealth. Now let's look at the word national. And again, we know what this is in terms of that, but I want to put it on the public record too. This is the word national. Look at number 3. Established, maintained, or owned by the federal government. The Moorish National Republic federal government is that government for us. And for those who agree to unify with us as the de jure government here on the land and with our money system. And you cannot maintain anything without resources. You can't establish it without resources. We had to do our own money. We had to. And it's money because we say it's money. Because we're the heirs, we're the creditors. Everyone else has been using our sovereign autograph. It's our turn. National Bank, a bank that manages and controls the finances of a nation. Well, Moorish Sovereign Delarium makes it so that each one of us controls our own finances. And then here, nationalize, nationalization, the act of making national. That's what we're doing with all of the banking structures, but it had to start with us and our own money. We generate and originate our own money, then we give commands to the banks and say, okay, now stock that in your inventory. Because the inventory is actually ours. And we're getting there. The more of us that use Moorish Sovereign Delarium, the quicker we'll get there, and it's happening already. Number 2, where nationalized is concerned, it says, well, number 1 says to make national in character. We can do that with any property. We just read earlier about how airplanes can be nationalized. That's in the international law. Number 2, to transfer ownership or control of land, resources, industries, etc. to a nation. No one is going to do that for us. We had to do it for ourselves. That transfer, the fact that we're able to transfer it says that we've already done it and that no one else could do it for us because no one was going to do it. We had to do it. To make into a nation. That's not someone letting you be a nation, because no one's going to let you be anything except their slave. So you must make. We make ourselves into a nation. And again, we've always been a nation, but it's good to go ahead and put it on the public record and make it so. Make and enforce law. Nationally, in a manner affecting the nation as a whole. Nationwide, by or through the whole nation. Islam. And then let's talk quickly about status, because when we're talking about finances, what is the status or state of our national finances? Status and state mean the same thing. It says it right here on the screen at number 3, status. Number 3 says state or condition as of affairs. Status and state, same thing. What is the state or status of our finances? Were we claiming statehood but using fiat? We're in transition, but the majority of us we can't stay there. We had to move into more sovereign dollari. Have to. All of us have to. Because that is our state. If we claim someone else's fiat as our state, then we're agreeing to be under everything that whoever printed that stuff says is their law. And we're not doing that. I don't know about you all. I'm done with that. Nope, we're not doing it. And that's why we use our own go back more sovereign dollarium. So now, let me show you really quickly, and then we can we'll open the floor, and also if anyone has any questions or comments, we can get the questions and comments in. I want to show you something really quickly that absolutely changes everything just because we have our own money. We're going to go here really quickly, and I'll put this link in the chat too. We're going to go to the Universal Postal Union Convention of June the 1st, 1878, and we'll go to page 51. I'll go ahead and put that on the screen. So this document is Treaties and Other Agreements of the United States of America, 1776 to 1949. Just one moment. Let me, so let's see. Okay. So I want to take a look at, because a lot of our issues that we've had in our nation are being answered and solved and remedied because we have our own money. So let's take a look here at page 51 of this document. Let's see where okay, here it is. Page 51, the Universal Postal Union. This is the convention and final protocol signed at Paris, June 1st, 1878. And again, we need to put this document in red and all lowercase letters, and we can do that verbally by our own vote. And we'll take that vote whenever you all are ready to take that vote. We can take it. I have opened up the chat so that we can discuss anything that we need to discuss with regard to this. It says here, this was done Paris, June 1st, 1878. Now, and again, they put it in black ink in capital letters, so we are aware of that. We know. Just one moment. Let me do really quickly. Okay. Okay. So the first, yes, let me go ahead and put these links in the chat for you. Let me go back and put the links to the other documents as well. So in the chat right now, I'm putting the link to the first document that we talked about with regard to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali when he went to Havana in 1928. Here we go. There's another. Because we are definitely going to get this done unencumbered. I don't know, let me see. And here's the other one. Here's the other link in the chat. And then let's get the link to this one as well. Because I want to show you how this last link that I just put in the chat is the one that we're on right now. Point of fact about this document here, the convention. This convention was ratified and put forth, and then it was terminated. For a number of reasons it was terminated. They did a new one, but as they were terminating these agreements, all they did was put them on the public record so that when we woke up and put our own money system in place, that we would rewrite them and put them out there as they should be. Okay? So I want to point just a couple of things out first. Now, it says here, Article 1 says, the countries between which the present convention is concluded, as well as those which may join it hereafter, form under the title of Universal Postal Union a single postal territory for the reciprocal exchange of correspondence between their post offices. All this is saying is there are no boundaries with regard to our territory, and that all of these places, Universal Postal Union concluded between Germany, the Argentine Republic, Austria, Hungary, Belgium, Brazil, Denmark, the Danish colonies, Egypt, Spain, and the Spanish colonies, the United States of North America, France and the French colonies, Great Britain and certain British colonies, British India, Canada, Greece, Italy, Japan, Luxembourg, Mexico, Montenegro, Norway, the Netherlands and the Netherlands colonies, Peru, Persia, Portugal and the Portuguese colonies, Romania, Russia, Serbia, Salvador, Sweden, Switzerland, and Turkey. These are all our territories, all of them. And for this convention, and we'll put this on the public record in red in all lowercase letters. For this convention, all of this land are joined together and form the Universal Postal Union, a single postal territory for the reciprocal exchange of correspondence between their post offices, a single postal territory. That means that wherever our mail goes is our territory too. Okay, that's important. We're going to put that on the public record too. And then it says here, the stipulations of this convention extend to letters, postcards, printed matter, etc., all of these commercial documents and all of those. So because it has everything to do with those documents, all types of mailing. The treaty was terminated in 1891, but we're going to activate it if you all choose to, due to the fact that we've chosen to transition from our to our own gold-backed money. But see, it was terminated also back in 1891 because they were in transition. They were in transition, and when that transition ended, it ended with the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 done by the courts. Okay? And so, although it states that the treaty was terminated, we can vote to have the treaty written in whole or in part, in capitis diminuto nolo in red ink, and placed on a public record and activated now that we have our own currency. Article 1 talks about the borders. Article 4 is important because let's take a look at Article 4 of this document. Article 4, right here on the screen, it says, the right of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. Do you know what that huge, gigantic statement is saying? It doesn't just say the right of transit with a letter is guaranteed throughout the entire territory. It does not specify. It just says the right of transit, which is for us the right to travel as well. And when you talk about us being the Universal Postal Union in red and all lowercase letters, and we're issuing identification cards, we have the right to travel to all those places based on this document being put on the public record in red and all lowercase letters by us, because it's our land, all of it. That is what we would use when we're talking about Transportation Safety Corporation and all of that. Just lean them, put them in subject status, give them some delarium so that they can do their job of either making a separate entryway for those who have more identification or something, making the accommodations. But we got to give them what they need to make those accommodations so that we can invoke this. This is a universal document, not just international, not just national. It's universal. And we are part and parcel for this document. The right to travel or transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. Now, when they talk about the Union, now you're getting into words that we see in the Constitution. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. It's the same union. This union and that union is the same. That's why I've always stated that the Constitution is a universal document. The corpses had their little one that they wrote, and they were keeping all the corpses under that. The subjects had one that we gave them. And when I say the corpses wrote it, all they did was hypothecate and copy and put it and kill it. But there's a universal one that is pertinent to the entire universe. The right of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. That's important. Now, this is also where the 2-cent stamp piece came from, because I was always wondering where did they even get the 2-cent stamp piece? Well, this Article 4 is where they got it from. It says here, the correspondence exchange, whether in open or in closed mail, between two administrations of the Union by means of the services of one or of several other administrations of the Union is subject to the following transit charges to be paid to each of the countries traversed. In other words, if it's on our land, then the 2 cent comes to us. Or whose services participate in the conveyance. Conveyance is our word. That's our word. Isn't that one of our words for travel? We travel in conveyances, etc. It says here, for territorial conveyance, 2 francs per kilogram of letters or postcards and 25 centimes per kilogram of other articles. 2 francs. And let me show you where 2 francs is equal to 2 cents, or centimes. That's what they call, centimes is short for cent, okay? Or cent is short for centimes. But let me put that on the screen also so that you can see where we got that from. Okay, on the screen, it has here the French franc. It says, in August 1795, the monetary law replaced the livre or the pound with the franc, which was divided into 10 centimes or tenths. And when it's divided into tenths, and 100 centimes into hundredths. Copper coins, which is the penny, were issued in the denominations of 1 centime, 5 centimes, 1 decime, or 2 decimes. Okay, so the denomination of 1 decime is 1 French franc in 1795. And so in this document done in let's go back to the document. In this document done in the 1800s, and again, they just put it in black ink. That's all they did, was put the document in black ink. It was already written in red. In this document, just one moment, let me get the preview up here. Make sure we're on the right page. It's saying here 2 francs. 2 francs is 2 centimes or 2 cent stamps. And so when people are going all the way back in time and saying, you know, about the 2 cent stamp and how the 2 cent stamp is allodial and it's from back in the day, this is where it came from. Okay. One last thing I want to show you really quickly in this document that is so important with regard to our Moorish sovereign dollarium. It's Article 7. Let me make sure I go back to the document. Yes, we're there. Okay, Article 7. When I read this, it just made me so happy that we have our own money. It says, those countries of the Union which have not the franc for their monetary unit fix their postages at the equivalent in their respective currencies of the rate determined by Articles 5 and 6 preceding. Such countries have the option of rounding off the fractions in conformity with the table inserted in the regulation of execution mentioned in Article 14 of the present convention. All this is saying, heirs, is that we can use our own Moorish sovereign dollarium on our postage that's going out to get things sent back and forth on our land. Because and we can just we can peg all the other currencies can be pegged to what we put on there. But we have to use our own stamps and make our own things. Now, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The post office already has them. We just needed to properly uncover them. So uncovering our vast estate is the antithesis of what the hybrid or what the modern European was calling discovering things, like discovering America and the founding fathers that found things. Okay, we're doing the same thing, except we're uncovering all that is already ours. Okay? So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can for right now if we want to put our own stamps on our documents, but the post office, when we speak to them competently and give them some dollarium to do the job up there, we got to send that to the main place, the main headquarters of the, and do you know why they call it headquarters? Do you know why they call it that? Because there was a corporate headquarters, and then there was the headquarters that was in subject status, and then there was the headquarters that was pretending to be the sovereign state, and then there's us. And all of the three others take their orders from us before turning, and the sovereign, we're the real sovereign. So with that being said, I'm going to open up the floor because I wanted to get through this information really quickly. I don't like to mute the meeting, but I know that it makes it so that we can get through the information without foreign interruption, without the subject interrupting. Okay, everyone, if you would like to add some wisdom to what we have, or you have any questions about what was brought forth today, this is all for our study, and at some point we're going to come together and vote on these things being written and put on the public record so that we can enforce them. Yes, Justice Sharif in the chat, he says, bear in mind a boundary is only as good as one's ability to keep it in place. Yes, and we're doing that now. We're doing that now. We're putting, again, and really we're removing boundaries for ourselves because we have no boundaries on our own land in terms of where we can travel and transit. Okay. Are there any questions? You can star 6 if you have any questions or comments, etc. I know we've covered.
This was one of your most fucking boring calls ever, Pauline. It was the fucking. But I'm glad that we got through it without that.
So we're in complete control of our meetings in terms of we can put that out at any time, and we can go through a whole meeting and not have to worry about the interruptions until we release the floor. And even then, we still can boot them out. So go ahead, Nobility, Islam.
What you stated before, that you are responsible for your own government, and this is where it becomes very technical to perform, where the fact is incidental if you are sick, if you are unable at certain times to not recall, doing natural mistakes. I always tell people there are 3 different types of truth. There's personal, there's political, and there's being objective. The problem that I'm seeing now, as you're saying, you have to demonstrate.
What's the truth, dude? What's the truth? Stay on your meds, dude.
So the problem becomes demonstrating it as an example for your heirs, where the fact is they must have done the same example as you would like to put it in the proper status. So the difficulty is that once you demonstrate it, or any given mistakes or errors or mishap from others than yourself may be translated not as true. Therefore, it has to be challenged as the truth. Therefore, it has to be rebutted, like you said. But the problem is be consistent. And some people cannot be very consistent to that degree. Like the person stated before, he likes to inject to such a way that it's funny that we debunked him from saying, what happened to the grocery store? He has not done it after the 3 meetings when we debunked that. So therefore, his lie is always convinced himself not to bring it up again. So that's why we are vigilant to do this, and certain degrees where the fact is when we represent ourselves in a proper form, it's only as proper as the challenge. So my little question is that when you are disabled into certain circumstance, can you still perform? Because if I took the biblical Bible, that one time King Solomon was able to hold such a degree of power until he became disabled.
The most boring call and the most boring need.
I yield.
Islam. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Okay. So, with regard to, again, taking full responsibility, if someone gave me, because I have been given wrong answers before from others, and when I say wrong, it was just wrong for me. But I have to do my own due diligence even still, whenever someone gives an answer, if we get information, we must all filter that information through. And the beauty of what you were saying is that, it's the law is the law is the law. Truth is not going to change. All we have to do is keep doing what we're doing, because debunking is easy. Just point to. Now, we have to keep that in mind when we're being tested. And just state the law, quote the law. And I'll tell you this, in the past, when I would quote the law previously, doesn't happen anymore. But when we quoted the law previously, sometimes the hybrids will say, well, that's just a belief that you have, and we can't really do anything based on your belief. And we would always follow up and say, that's not a belief, that's the law. We don't have that problem anymore, but the law debunks all myths and fallacies and fantasies and feelings and beliefs. The law will put all of that back in its proper place, period. So no matter who we're getting information from or who's saying what, because hybrids, the modern Europeans that come into the meeting, oh well, they can't stop what's happening, so they're just trying to do what they can to slow as many down as possible, but it's not working. So, Islam, with that, I didn't hear all of what you said because my phone disconnected. I got booted from the platform myself because the platform does that. So hopefully I did not miss a question that you had. But
Islam, I was just stating to the fact of oneself, that's all it was, and it was not posed as a question, only as a reminder, where the fact is one has a tendency to forget oneself, and others tend to perpetuate it, and becomes harder to re-challenge in the perpetuations of error.
Well, go within, because see, sometimes, because what I'm hearing in what you're saying, sometimes, and it's not that I don't give advice. I don't give advice because Moors don't need advice. They just need, suggestions, and then they do their own research and advise themselves. But with regard to that, when all that's outside is not getting us what we need, when we keep looking outside of ourselves and seeing all of these things and calling people and we're doing documents and all of this stuff, when all of that is still not meeting that final need that we have, that means that it's time to go within and get the answers from there. And we actually should be doing that from the very beginning. That's where I get my answers from, within. And then when I look at the law and all that the ancestors are showing us, then it just affirms what we knew already. Just kind of like with the 2-cent piece. I've heard 2-cent stamp, 2-cent stamp this, and 2-cent stamp that. I've heard that when I would ask people, where did you get that from? No one could ever tell me where they got the 2-cent stamp from in the document. Well, now I see from my own. Now, I did it because everyone else was doing it, the 2-cent stamp thing some years back. But now I have proof of where that came from. So now, what we're going to do in the next few weeks with our own agreement, because this is how government is done. We see the documents, we see what needs to be done. We want to honor our prophet because he went down there to Havana, Cuba, to get that document. Oh, by the way, I did see in my study and in my research that the original document that where Havana, Cuba is concerned, it is in the archive. It's in Washington, in the Archive of Pan American States. I believe that's the name of the archive. The Archive of the Pan American States. Archive of the American States. That's what it is. So if you wanted to see this document written all out and signed by the plenipotentiaries and all of that, you would go to that. It's an archive/museum of American states in Washington. It's funny because when I saw that information written on the document that I was looking at, it didn't say Washington, D.C., it just said Washington. I was like, that's interesting. One last thing that I want to put forth as a study tool for us and to keep in mind as we move further into governing and using our delarium is that the State Department, not the Department of State, but the State Department, has a website that has, let me see, where is that at? I want to make sure. Okay, let me put this document in the chat. They have a website. It's called Treaties in Force. It's a list of treaties and other international agreements of the United States in force, and every year they update it. And I did look through there, and that's actually what led me to all of this information that we put forth today. Is I saw this document, and let me put the document on the screen. I saw this document when I looked through, and when I saw this document, I put in the word Morocco here at the top. You know how you can go over here to the corner and you look at the document and it'll say find on page right here, find on page. So I clicked on find on page and this popped open right here at the top. And I put in the word Morocco and it came up with 21 instances where the word Morocco was listed in this document. And as I began to go through and look at what it was saying about Morocco, that's where I came across all of this other information that we put forth today. Okay. So with that being said, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom?
Islam?
Islam Empress.
Okay, I'll be very quick because I heard the noble wants to speak as well. I just wanted to say about, because when you spoke about the delarium piece, I just want to say another part of study that I do want to speak to you a little bit more about, but is also about that with the Forex, the foreign exchange rates, and they have like a contract. Now I've seen a contract that they utilize that it would be, I guess, basically from different quote unquote nations to other nations and saying, okay, you know, we are agreeing to do whatever, we're going to use your money, buy your money, blah blah blah, and go back and forth. and that's how they're able to exchange money. Or however, but I've seen a copy of it. They wouldn't let me download it, but I could probably take snapshots of it and then just put it in all lowercase letters and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll be able to take that affidavit form and put it more as a command. Because at that point, you know, they're kind of doing it like, will you do everyone agree, more like a contract as an agreement. But I know ours would be a command. And I was thinking on that because I'm looking at, you know, us putting the Dollarium, being able to put it into our accounts to be able to have that utilized. And we have to give them instructions. And in the contract, it has a place where it shows instructions. You know, it's like everything you said thus far, anything we do, we have to come with instructions. We came with the money piece. Now we have to give the instructions so they'll know what to do. They'll have the money, but we need to tell them how we want them to utilize the Dollarium in order to provide the service and you know, utilize our resources to do what we want them to do. I yield. That's all I have.
Yes, Empress, yes. So I'll say this about that. We need to tell them about the even exchange one-to-one of sovereign credits into the sovereign resource account. That's what we really need to do, is tell them about sovereign credits and making it exchangeable for sovereign credits into the sovereign resource account. That way it will fit into any other account, you know, any account that we have out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, quick question. What do we believe on after they, like, say we put it into the account? You know, how you actually, you give the monies and then they put the credits into the account. What happens to the money after they receive it? Should it come back to us somehow? Once they have the dollar, do they destroy it? Do we destroy it? How does that work?
So what they would do is take our Dollarium. Let's say you give them 50,000 in Dollarium, and you say put 50,000 sovereign credits into my sovereign credit account. Into my account that you know, they used to call them bank accounts, but that's not really what they were. Just like they used to call us black, but that's not really what we were. And so, yes, Empress Portia put the answer in the chat. They're going to take it and they're going to do the same thing with it that they did with that when they were sleeping and being corpses. They're going to take it and put it into circulation. They're going to put it in circulation. So they'll take it and it's a credit for them. So let's just say the bank needed some more. They needed to print some more money. Then they would take that credit for 50,000 and they would send it to the Treasury, and the Treasury would say, okay, here's some more credit. Because, see, believe it or not, they can't just sit there and just put credits in the system. If that's the case, all of tellers would have been wealthy because they would have loaded up their own account. They actually have to account for each credit that's coming through there. And when we give them Dollarium coming through there, now, then they would send that Dollarium to the real Treasury. Let me say this about the Treasury. Ever since the Treasury that our ancestors used that has the gold coinage in it, and according to the Coinage Act of 1792 and all of that, that Treasury is still active. It's still active. It's just that it had been hypothecated and covered by a corporation who then pretended to be that Treasury but start issuing their own crap, their own stuff. But that Treasury sat there and they just put their fake papers over it and started issuing their private commercial paper that they can control. They never touched anything that was in the original Treasury because they couldn't. So they just hypothecated it and capitalized it and put it in capital letters and said, okay, now we're the Treasury and here's Treasury money, quote unquote, but it was fiat in capital letters and black ink. So now what we've done by leaning them is remove that and then saying, okay, we're not even this treasury that our ancestors put up. We're the original treasury in red and all lowercase letters. And we tell that treasury what to do. The treasury that has the gold coinage that manifests in this realm, we tell that one what to do. So that's all we have to do. They take these, it's kind of like they're acting in fiduciary duty, but they're not fiduciary.
Shit. Kind of shit that always got to keep happening.
It's kind of like that, but they're not fiduciary. Okay? So they take it and they present it to the Treasury, and the Treasury will issue them, the Treasury system will issue them 50,000 credits instead of issuing them a bill for 50,000 in debt, because that's what they used to do, send them a bill, an invoice. But they don't do that anymore. Now it's issuing them credit. So anytime we give Dollarium, that means they have actual credit that they can use because the creditors have given them credit. So they take it, the banks take it, they give it to the Treasury, and the Treasury gives them 50,000 credits. And then they do what banks do, which is they can multiply that by lending it out in other areas. And again, we don't need loans because we're the creditor. But some of the citizens that are on this land and some of the, the foreigners who come here, they're going to want loans. So then we would be essentially funding everything like we've been doing, but we'll be funding it and we know we're funding. Okay? And again, I'll say this because I see there's something in the chat that says we need our own banks, money institutions. These people are not going to do business straight up. We're already our own bank. That's why we're issuing our own money. Banks issue money. So every more that prints Dollarium is their own bank. We're already issuing money. So what do we do now? Either you can do your own banking per se, but for some of us, we don't have time to do banking. We don't have time to sit and do banking because we're governing the vast estate. So we would just send the affidavit and the Dollarium with, we give them a good set of instructions, a good set of commands to follow. And then they just do their job. The system just does its job. The subjects just do their job. The ones in blue do their job. And that way we don't have to worry about banking. We just continue governing the vast estate. We watch them. Yes, listen, not only do they risk jail, but you cannot break covenant with the God. You can't. In order for us to even break covenant, we had to come out of God's status, so to speak. Because when we're in our proper status, there's no breaking the covenant. Anybody doing that, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. And the subjects know better than anybody. Yes, Empress, we do. And Empress today says if they don't do their job, then they risk jail. They risk jail and a little more than jail, too. And then, another Empress in the chat, Empress Portia says we should know best about breaking covenants. Kind of, sort of, yeah. Because when we were in that status where we thought we were citizens, we were doing the same thing that the corpses were doing. Breaking covenant. But we got punished, didn't we, in that system? We got punished, and they didn't. So we got to keep that in mind. Islam. Yes, Islam is.
Just had a quick question. Lael Bat Yisrael, Dallas, Texas territory. Wanted to ask if it's still suggested, when you were going over the aircraft carriers, today. I didn't get all of it, but I'm going to go back and once it's posted and look at the whole video. But wanted to find out if it's still suggested that we notify the corporations twice prior to sending the final, sending the lien in. The reason I'm asking is that. Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Empress.
Oh, no, I was just telling you the reason I was asking. I went back over the mask mandate video that you put out about a year ago, and you were explaining, you know, if they were in violation, how we should go about doing it. And with the aircraft carriers, of course, you know, they are in violation, and we certainly can address that. But I just didn't know if we should still move forward with notifying them twice prior to sending the actual lien in, giving them a 30-day waiver, you know, 30-day space in between. I yield.
Islam, thank you, Empress, for the question. So notification is going to come in the form of first a lien. That's the first notification is a lien. Second notification is a court action. Now, you can do that by email or you can do them all at once. So, yes, notify them. And then when you get by the time they get that second notification, there's already delarium in it. There's already, and I'll say this more about the delarium, because there's a question in the chat about it that is in alignment with what's being said here. They were saying that in the chat it said, won't we have to print up and sign thousands of delarium the way they're doing now to make this work? There's a $100 million denomination. There's a $1 million denomination. There are 50,000. You can sign you can autograph 5 $100 million delariums, and that might get the job done. So you're not going to be sitting there all night and all day unless you want to, because I actually kind of like the energy that flows when I autograph delarium, because our ancestors validate it every time I do that. So I could sit all day and sign delarium, but you don't have to. There's a $100 million denomination. That should pretty much cover what they need to do in terms of keeping you safe on your travel and making sure that everything is good with you and all of that. So, Empress, with regard to your question, yeah, by the time they get that third notification, and the third notification will most likely be that day, the day that you're traveling, by then they will have already received a copy of your Moorish identification in red and all lowercase letters, and those you can either print it out at home or you can have one of the justices print that for you. And they'll already have all your documents there as well, and your sovereign credits that you've given, because you've terminated all corporate contracts, and now whatever is going through that account is sovereign credit going through there. So, yes, notify them twice. The first notification is removing that corporate covering and telling the subject that they have a court date with the heirs, and then you do the court action. There was a nobility that was going to ask the question, I believe. I thought I heard one of the nobles.
Okay, so my interject, this is coming out, Bing.
Islam.
Yes. Yes, the question is about the Universal Postal Union. I guess one of the objectives is by going to the headquarters is have a question on that. Did we as a nation inform them or give them a notification of our intent? And also, did we use the funds also to sort of way activate or to let them know this is what we are using?
That's a great question. Has any heirs sent them notification? Has any heirs liened them? Has any heirs sent them delarium? Because it's not just my job. We all have to do it. Now, I'll answer for what I've done so far. Yes, the Universal Postal Union has been liened. They've been notified. And if you go out on YouTube, I think about a year ago, I did a video and I gave the tracking numbers of the notification where it was received in Bern, Switzerland, and the lien and all of that. So yes, they've been notified. We're not done yet though, because we got to get them from Delarium too.
So we have to send that to them. Let's get everything going, and then eventually we'll have a convention agreeing with the 1891 Universal Post Office. So when we do that, we actually put in our jurisdiction. That's the whole objective?
Yes, that is the objective. That's actually the law. That's the law. And just so that you're aware, this that we're doing right now is a congressional convention. This is how they go. This is what they look like until we come together face to face and see each other. But this is how it's done. This is governing. People make it seem like it's something way far out there, but when the heirs come together and we make the law, that's governing. And when we're competent to do so and we're using our own money, that's it. But we will have a specific day and time, and it'll be during these times of these calls, because that's what these calls are for, is to govern this vast estate, so we can put things on the public record. Because with everything that we voted on thus far, I've seen the changes already just because we all agreed. So we have to keep that formula going so that we can manifest coming together in person, face to face. We want to manifest coming together face to face. And that entails getting the Delarium moved, getting everything done. Islam.
Yes, Islam. Also, the Postmaster General also was notified, and also that we use our currency when we put that lien on.
I'm sorry?
The Postmaster General. Yeah. Did we have put a lien on them plus our currency?
They've not received. He's a subject, and he has not received currency yet, because we're just getting our currency out there now. And those are the things that I'm thinking about while I'm doing emails and sending Delarium out, and between the calls and the banking piece, because I wanted to show you all. Yesterday I was able to transfer 50,000 Delarium to Empress Jonaya, and I wanted to show you all how to do that, but we're out of time today. So, but don't wait for me to do it. You go ahead and do it. Do the lien them, whoever, all more should be doing it. Lien them, do a court action on them, and send them some of your Delarium so that they know you're the heir. And so whenever you speak, they know to listen. Islam?
I was wanting to know what affidavit of writ to use with the Delarium when you're giving it to the subject.
You will have given them a lien and a court action, and when you give them the lien and the court action, in the court action, you can put whatever you want them to do in that court action. Even if you don't know the whole ins and outs, you can just tell them to do their job with regard to wherever it is they're working. For example, when I did the demonstration with the Secretary for State's office, which I'm the Secretary of State here, I'm the governor here for my own affairs. Other Moors here are the governors and secretaries of state for their affairs, and you're the governor and secretary of state and president for your own affairs as well. So you give them instruction or commands based on that. So what did I do? I went and looked at what does the Secretary of State do? What's their job? I looked at their job description, and I found out that their job description, that we gave them, was to be the custodian of abandoned property, such as conveyances and things like that. And that's why the manufacturer's certificate of origin goes to the Secretary of State, because they had originally claimed in corporate status all the conveyances on the road. That's why they didn't have no problem towing everybody. So what we did was we gave them the affidavit that we put out previously that says we and all Moors are the Secretary for Sovereign State. So I gave them that. I gave them the currency controller document stating that this dollarium, we control it. I gave them unum sanctum documents because we're the popes. And as we all know, the popes are the ones who were ensuring, quote unquote, the policy enforcers and the state courts and the military. The Pope, when he came in 2015 and cut off the insurance of the policy enforcers and all of them, they were saying, okay, the Moors are coming back, so we're not going to be in between you and the Moors. Y'all going to have to deal with the Moors yourself. So the Pope pretty much left them high and dry to deal with our liens and our court actions. So the answer to your question is liens, court actions, and authority documents, such as currency controller and Secretary for Sovereign State and sovereign governor and sovereign precedent, and all Moors are all of that. And that's why we put those documents out so everyone could just download them in red and all lowercase letters, put their information in there, and put that with their demonstration. We even gave them unum sanctum, stating that everyone is under the Roman pontiff. The Roman pontiff, in red and all lowercase letters, is all Moors. A pontiff is a bunch of us. So those are the documents, and any other documents that you feel led to put with it in order to first assert your sovereign authority competently, and then to make it so that they understand that it's not optional. They must do their job and that they are in subject status and not corporate status, period. And then you've given them the resources to do it. And I'm really generous with the resources. I give them $100 million with each affidavit that goes out so that they don't do, so that we get the best service that we can get for all that we do and say. So be generous with the dollarium. Give it out, give it out, give it out. 100 million at a time for each affidavit. So that way they don't short and have to budget when you come through and when you give command. Islam.
Indeed.
Islam. Any other questions, comments?
Islam.
Islam nobility.
I understand that the support is it's a certain type of support to support other Moors and certain behaviors behind that. I'm just going to recap an example of history from what you stated in the last session about not to be questioned. As a review in history, we have, just a reminder only, and an example to forthcoming, that it may be done again, and this is the problem we may have. When we look at the Salem witch trial, people are accused of witchcraft where there are 20 individuals that has been executed. The weirdest part was there was one lawyer under 20 accused that owned land. And they're accusing him because he has a bunch of land. He didn't even practice witchcraft whatsoever. He just accused of being witchcraft. Since he was a lawyer, he understood that to answer the questions that are posed to him, are you a witch or not? Under that law at the time, if he questioned it, yes or no, he was going to lose the land. So the trial that they put him under was putting a whole bunch of rocks on his chest until he submitted. He never submitted, but he cursed the hell out of them. When he passed away, he was the only person accused that didn't lose his land. And that's to reinforce what you just stated in the last session. This is why we don't answer questions. Ask more.
Yeah. And
this is why he's able to obtain the land. But this is during the 1600s, where it's formidable to be forgotten in another context. And this is the delusional part, because when they rewrite it, they rewrote it as this is accused, but that little small lesson that was supposed to be learned correctly wasn't given in the correct context. The other problem to that was when people use personal questions or reiterate questions or repetitive questions, it goes into interrogation.
Yes.
So when it's interrogating and harassment, this is a technique that they will use consistently. Henceforth, we don't answer those questions.
I actually had to demonstrate that 2 days ago. I went to a park here, Saltwater State Park, to get some water so that I could make some sea salt, because I was out of sea salt, and I had to get some water so that I could boil it down and make my sea salt. And I went about 20 minutes before closing time, their closing time at the park. And as I was getting my sea salt, filling the container so that I could make my sea salt, a park ranger came up, someone doing business as a park ranger, came up and he said, "Hey, you got 15 minutes, so it's pretty much time for you to, leave the park because we're closing now." Well, I didn't look up. I didn't say anything. I just kept doing what I came to do there. Didn't say a word. And so because I didn't acknowledge him, because he wasn't really talking to me, I knew that. He got out of his conveyance and he walked over to where I was and stood near me. And he started talking. "Hey, how are you doing?" The question started. That "hey, how you doing" is a jurisdictional question. I don't care how nice and sweet and smiley it sounds. Because the minute you answer that, they're going to ask you a few more. Then they're going to start giving you commands. I didn't say anything. He said, "What are you doing?" Didn't say anything. I'm sitting there just obviously putting water into my container. He said, "Are you okay? Do I need to call someone if you're not feeling well?" He was casting spells. Now, clearly, I'm healthy. I'm not throwing up. I'm not in distress or anything. But he wanted to pull that one. Didn't say anything. I didn't look at him. So then he kept talking. He said, that water, he said, it's not for drinking. And I wouldn't use it because it's got stuff in it. And I'm thinking to myself, it's got everything that's going to keep me living here a lot longer than you would. But I didn't say that. I was just, and then the ancestor said, "Okay, light, check your energy." So he was talking, and finally I looked up at him. And all I could do was look to keep myself calm and cool. Because I can't get ugly. I can't get an attitude. The ancestors won't let me. I just looked at him. Stared at him for a good, probably 10 seconds. And then I went back to doing what I was doing. And he left. He didn't have the right to question me, and I knew that according to Article 1, Section 6, the first paragraph of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 6, that first paragraph, the last sentence of that paragraph states that we're not to be questioned outside of the congressional meeting because we're the Senate. It worked. I was not going to talk to him. And some people might think, oh, that's just rude. Well, they taught us that, oh, if you don't answer them, that's very rude. It's bad. No, it's not. I'm not yielding jurisdiction. I'm not being mean. I didn't call him any names. Even though he has a name and I don't. So, yes, with what you were saying there, the ancestors just told me don't say anything. I was going to do a court action, and they said, no, don't even do a court action. Just don't say nothing. So I said, okay, that'll work too. So putting that in action all day, every day, we're having to demonstrate all the time. But that's how we know what we're doing works. He couldn't do anything to me. He couldn't do anything to me because he wasn't even talking to me. He thought he was talking to a citizen. So thank you for that, nobility. Are there any other questions or comments, wisdom, etc.? We have gone a little long today. I've been trying, every time I have it in my mind to shorten the length of the meeting, the ancestors say, no, you're going to go as long as we want you to go. So we just go. But we're going to try and make them a little bit shorter than 2.5 hours, even though, you know, we just want to make sure we get the information out and also speak to one another and hear from one another. Thank you for those who spoke. We appreciate that. That's why we're here, is to hear one another and to come to agreement on governing our resources. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine, heir, Islam.
Peace and grand rising. Islam. Peace and grand rising.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace and love.
Thank you, Empress.
Grand rising to the Moors. Thank you, Empress.
Grand rising. Thank you, Islam.
Peace and grand rising to the Lord.
Islam. Peace and grand rising, Empress.